I want to bring in our Adrian Wojnarowski. Woj, good morning. You got us?
Hey, good morning, guys.
Hey, thank you so much for being with us. Woj, what was your reaction this morning when you heard the news?
Just incredible sadness. Jerry West is as important of a figure in NBA history as any I can think of. I don't think there's another individual who did so many things so well in almost every element of NBA and basketball life, as a player, as a coach, as an executive, a dynasty builder, and he's the logo. And what was remarkable to me about Jerry West and getting to know him was he always lived in the present. He loved being a part of teams. Even after being GM with the Lakers in Memphis, he went on, worked with Bob Myers in Golden State, worked with Lawrence Frank, Steve Ballmer, with the Clippers as an advisor. And Jerry West was not somebody who loved to sit and talk about nostalgia in the old days. He was always in the present with his team, the next draft, trades. I texted him a couple weeks ago on his 86th birthday and wished him well and knew that he had not been feeling well and he had had a difficult last year or so. And he said to me, hey, keep me posted on what's happening. Trades, player movement. And that was Jerry to the end, living in the now. He leaves a void that will never be filled in this league.
Again, there's a lot of things. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Doggy.
No, yeah, I'll make it quick, Stevie, because, when I was a young kid in Long Island in the early 70s, everybody loved Jerry West. Number 44, played the Knicks twice. And everybody knew what a great player was, how classy he was as a basketball player. All defense, by the way. He's one of the great defensive guards in the history of the NBA. Let's not forget that. He averaged 36 a game in that, as you heard Jay say, in that NBA final, the only MVP of a losing team. Bill Russell went to his retirement party announcement with the Lakers. Bill Russell went. The only Bill Russell goes. I mean, that's how about Red Auerbach's quote in there? What a performance. He brought, Elgin Baylor did too, but Elgin played for Minneapolis. He was drafted by the Lakers. He brought NBA basketball to the West Coast. I mean, he's a little bit like Gretzky. He brought basketball to L.A. They played the L.A. Sports Arena. He helped get that forum built. I mean, I'll let Stevie handle the executive part, which is bar none. But I think he's actually underrated. I think people don't, with Kobe there and Matt, people forget how great he was. He shot 48, 49% with no threes. The one three he makes, think about it for a minute. Here's Jerry West in a nutshell. He makes a half-court shot against the Knicks in the 69-70 final, and they lost the game. He made the shot to tie up to get overtime and lost the game. If that's today, that's a three, and the Lakers beat the Knicks, and they win the series, and nobody's talking about Willis Reed. He's so underrated historically. Listen, I love the guy. I think he's one of the all-timers. And from an executive standpoint, Stevie, as good as it gets. Tremendous from what he did as a spotting talent is concerned.
Well, I want to say this to Woj. For me, Woj, I think that, there's a lot of great things that Jerry West has done. We all know it as a player, as an executive, getting Shaquille O'Neal, getting Kobe Bryant in the draft, ultimately from the Charlotte Hornets. We saw what he built there. We saw what he inherited after Bill Sharman departed, and he took over the executive ranks in Los Angeles, and they won 3 titles and were dominant in the 80s. We all know this. I think, Woj, one of the greatest moves we've ever seen was when he plucked Hubie Brown from out of nowhere and inserted him, I believe it was 2002, 2003, as the head coach for the Memphis Grizzlies. I think that started the significance of that franchise. I thought they were irrelevant until then. What are your thoughts about that, Woj?
No, it's a great point, Stephen A. And, it was one thing to do it in L.A., where great players wanted to play. And he saw something in Kobe Bryant very few had the guts to believe in, and orchestrated that trade. But what he did in Memphis after that, this was a franchise that had come from Vancouver, had not had really any success. And he hires Hubie Brown, who had been out of the league for 20 years, And then with Pau Gasol and that group, they become a 50-win team, and just another chapter in a lifetime of team building. He's going to go into the Hall of Fame this year for the third time. Think about that. He went in as a player. He went in as part of the 1960 Olympic team, and he was going in this time as a contributor to the game for his work as an executive and the things around it. I congratulated him on the day that we found out he was going in. And the thing with Jerry West is if you were around him, there are very few people in NBA history to see the way the average person responded to him, men and women of a certain age who grew up with him. It was like they were seeing someone walk down from Olympus, and he always had time for people. It wasn't just the league executives and people around the NBA. Jerry West was as open with the draft prospect he met at the practice facility 2 minutes earlier and would just spend time with that young man. There was a magic about being around Jerry West and a seriousness of pursuit in everything he did until the very end. And he was generous with those around him with time. He had tremendous empathy. And you never heard Jerry West talk about like some older players do. In my day, it was better. In my day, he appreciated players of this era. Remember, I had him on my podcast several years ago, and we were talking about free agency and players moving around. He actually said to me, hey, I would have considered going to the Celtics if I ever had the chance, if I had free agency. He evolved as the game evolved, and he was always in the present, and it was a great lesson for people.
Appreciate that insight also, Woj, of Jerry as the man, not just as the player and as the executive, but as the human being, which many revered, not just you and Stephen A. and Mad Dog, but also Michael Jordan. Woj, thank you so much for being with us. Jordan sent the following statement to our very own Stephen A. in regards to the passing of Jerry West. I'll read this to you. I am so deeply saddened at the news of Jerry's passing. He was truly a friend and mentor, like an older brother to me. I valued his friendship and knowledge. I always wished I could have played against him as a competitor, but the more I came to know him, I wish I had been his teammate. I admired his basketball insights, and he and I shared many similarities to how we approached the game. He will be forever missed. My condolences to his wife, Karen, and his sons. Rest in peace, Logo. I now want to bring in CJ McCollum to the conversation. CJ, thank you so much for being with us on this difficult morning. What was your reaction to just hearing the news and more on just the legacy of Jerry West?
Yes, I was just saddened by the loss, and I want to send my condolences and my prayers to his family, his wife, his kids, and everyone that knew him and everyone that's a part of basketball. As a 90s baby, as I said earlier, understanding his legacy and the history of what he's done to the game, the impact with him being one of the founding fathers of the game and kind of laying the foundation. I remember the first time I looked up who the Logo actually was and learned about the history of Jerry West, his impact on the game, and the fact that he's the first and only player in NBA history to be named the MVP of the finals in which he lost. And I think that kind of personifies his greatness. His career averages of over 25 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists, 14 years in the league and 14 first-team All-NBA selections, essentially showing his greatness, but also what he was able to do post-career, post-playing career in terms of his accomplishments as an executive. Obviously, I played against some of those Warriors teams and understand the greatness that he had in kind of helping critique and put together the roster, but just I want to appreciate and celebrate his greatness and all the things that he's done for the game of basketball and how he's kind of influenced my career as well.
Mm-hmm. Stephen A.?
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's not much you can say. You can't run out of things to say about what Jerry West has meant to the game of basketball. And, I think that one of the things that Woj pointed out that you really got to hold on to is the fact that this man has been associated with the game of basketball since the 60s. Well into the 2000s and beyond, over the last 55, 60 plus years. And as the game evolved, so did he. And it's one thing to be what you are as a player, but then to go out there and to prove it as such an elite executive that even when you stepped away from the game, when you retired from the game, teams are reaching out to make sure that somehow, some way, you're still involved on a consulting level, that they consult with you, that they hear what you have to say because they value your opinion so much. That goes a long, long way. A legitimate argument could be made that if it were not for Jerry West, Klay Thompson would have been traded. Obviously, Mark Jackson had something to do with that as well because that's not something he wanted either. But Klay Thompson, the great Klay Thompson, a future Hall of Famer, a four-time champion, one of the greatest shooters we've ever seen, might not have stayed on as a member of the Splash Brothers if Jerry West wasn't in the building. And I started off the show talking about how owner Joe Lacob for the Golden State Warriors said he didn't know Jerry West personally, but felt the need to meet up with him. And they met up at Dan Tanner's restaurant in Los Angeles. And they hit it off immediately. And the man worked for him for 6 years. And he literally said that he doesn't believe that, you know, the Golden State Warriors may have ended up being what they are and what they were if it were not for the contributions made by Jerry West. So you see the profound respect and reverence that folks have for him. It's incredibly, incredibly well-deserved, and it's just a really, really sad day for the basketball community because we've lost a great one.
Hated the nickname. You know, he was Zeke from Cabin Creek.
Yeah.
And he hated that nickname. He went to West Virginia. He had to go there. He was from West Virginia. And then, of course, in '59, they lost a championship game. You played in those tournaments. You killed Duke. He played in that championship game against Cal. They lost by a point. Then he's with Oscar, and he wins the MVP. He's on the Olympic team in '60. And remember, too, I think it's almost underrated. He and Goodrich, that's one of the great backcourts of all time. The Lakers in '71-'72, they beat Kareem and Oscar and the Knicks. He averaged 25, 8 assists, and 5 rebounds, shot 49%. They won 69 games, and they won 33 in a row. They were 6-3, and then they were 39-3. That's how good. And people forget he was the anchor of that team. He is, again, my age. I mean, how do you not love Jerry West? Everybody I remember in the early '70s, Jerry West, they admired him.
And
Admired him.
and as you mentioned, in October will be enshrined to the Hall of Fame for the
Third
first
time.
time ever. Yeah.
For the Olympics.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, as a contributor.
Oh, as a contributor, third time. I heard Wojo say that.
Yeah, as a contributor. Yep. CJ, thank you so much for being with us. Jerry West died at the age of 86. More First Take after this break.
Try to boast at what I look like. Think I'm going harder where I pull up long range. Jimmy with the heat, I'm on fire. It's NBA on the ESPN.